And we are up and alive and running down the road here one more time. Hopefully the sound is coming through in a coherent way. And that previous video that I just started a couple minutes ago is pretty much a dead one. So I'm hoping people jump over here and join me on this, the second start for The Miracle Within. And we are looking at, okay, Lisa just says perfect, so good. My audio is working. Anyway, I see Catherine's with us, and Margaret is with us, and Sarah. Hello, Sarah. So it's wonderful that all of you could join me this wintry evening. As I had mentioned a little bit earlier, the presence of winter is expanding across the Midwest. So we have those sub-zero temperatures that are settling in overnight. And it makes for, I don't know, that beautiful sense of connecting with the family. You know, you try to keep the door closed as much as possible and throw a log on the fire, and everybody cozies up to each other, and you snuggle a little bit. And you know that there are those out in the environment that are perhaps not properly prepared. So we just send a lot of loving warmth in all directions across the planet. And I assume, or I hope, that everybody had a great holiday, great Christmas. You know, Christmas, for those of us who are into A Course in Miracles, and for those of us who are truly invested in the story of Jesus, the whole holiday is based on the idea of a rebirth. You know, and it's the perfect time of the year as we go into the era of the solstice. The sun is reborn and starts to expand. So we get longer days and shorter nights for the next 6 months. And that's a very good analogy for our personal journey, because within us, if we are diligent, if we are paying attention and putting effort into our spiritual growth, there is a rebirth that occurs for all of us personally around this time of year. And we can celebrate connecting to that presence of the Christ within. So going straight into A Course in Miracles, the book that we all love, has some things to say, some thoughts to share on Christmas and this beginning of the new year, the expansion of the presence of light, the activity of light here in this very dark material world. And, you know, as we continue to progress with the Course, all of a sudden the world we witness seems to go through a transformation. And we begin to see the world as less of a dark and scary and death-ridden place. And the more we can see through that illusion that is always present, no matter which way we look. So the Course is a process of coming to a place in this material world where we're able to overlook or transcend the appearance of evil and realize that it in actuality has no power. And that's what we're doing on, especially as we're starting with this new year. Hopefully those of you who are joining me for these dialogues will give consideration to doing the lessons in the textbook starting on January 1st. That could be a great mission for your own personal advancement over the coming year. At any rate, I am looking at chapter 15, and we are going down to section 10. It's entitled The Time of Rebirth. And I'm going to skip forward a little bit in this chapter and go right up here to Section 4, paragraph 4, it is your power, it is in your power to make this season holy. For it is in your power to make the time of Christ be now. And what we are being told here is that this is bringing everything into a very personal realm. It is bringing everything into a very personal experience. So we can sanctify this timeline. We can sanctify this holiday by accepting our identity within the Christ. You know, and that's kind of a challenging idea, because we are so invested in this person that we have created, this me, that we're always in a slave to, and we're always protecting. We're always trying to keep it out of the line of fire. And the Course is telling us that it's time to shift our attention away from that personal me and start to contemplate the possibility that the Christ, the presence and the activity of God, the divinity within us, is how we should begin to perceive ourselves. And of course, multiple people throughout time have discovered this experience, and this experience is contingent upon our ceasing, even for a millisecond, to be me. In other words, that sense of self that we're always paying attention to, pondering, trying to please, that essence of us, if we can stop the mind, that essence disappears very, very briefly. And it doesn't indicate, or it doesn't, you won't experience a terrifying leap off a cliff. In actual fact, you will experience a union with your true higher self, with the presence and the activity of God within you. So we're being told that we can sanctify this timeline. We can make this period of time very, very holy. And that is not an indulgence of self. That is a process that is shared throughout the world. Because as we start to awaken, we begin to really come to the understanding that in truth, there's only one of us here. And so in truth, we all have this shared experience going on within our collective mind. Now, we wall ourselves off from that. We avoid that. We resist that. But the truth is that every thought that you have goes into a pool. It goes into a collective. And so if you're putting your thoughts into this collective and envisioning healing, envisioning love, envisioning awakening, envisioning truth and light and peace, then every thought of that nature that you have helps heal humanity as a collective. So all of the work that we're doing on the surface appears to be for us. It's a somewhat selfish thing in its own right, according to the definition of the ego. It's all about you. But the truth is, as we awaken to the Christ within us and start to experience that presence, it has the healing effect on the entire planet. It lifts everybody up. So that's really, the ultimate Christmas present. That's the ultimate gift that we have the power to share on this planet. I mean, yeah, you can go out and tie yourself to a tree and, stop the progress of deforestation, or you can get involved in Greenpeace and ride a boat and save a whale. There are all these different activities. But each one, as you begin to really get invested in trying to make that change, you'll begin to realize that the change is momentary. It is just a flash in this experience that we're having in this linear landscape. And we're looking for a deeper level of transformation. We're looking for a deeper level of change. And the way we attain that is to work on the level of spirit. So it's a good thing to have your, your various interests and to participate. But really, you should always be aware of the fact that the real change is going to only happen in human consciousness. It's not going to happen out there in this exterior world, because this exterior world is in constant transition. So that's where we get into those ideas of duality. Every time you declare something to be good, simply by the effect of that declaration, you have created or you have uncovered something that is bad. So as long as we're experiencing duality, we're prone to this ongoing fight or flight experience in life. We're always resisting, we're always fighting, we're always suffering, or we're trying to save those who are suffering. The real truth is all of the advancement is advancement in consciousness. It is in the mind, and that's where the healing is. So it goes on to say, it is possible to do this all at once, because there is but one shift in perception that is necessary, for you made but one mistake. So all of the illusion of this world is a dog and pony show, trying to distract us from this key elementary mistake that we made, which it was we entertained the idea of separation. And since God is life itself, a separation from God would mean death. And what have we got in this world? We're surrounded by death. This is an orgy of death. We see death on every avenue that we pursue. Just maintaining the body involves the death of animals and plants. We have to consume food. So we're looking at a gazillion different ideas being presented to us about what is wrong. And all we have to do is go to the core idea, to the original idea that caused this whole pageant to unfold. And that was that mad, insane thought of separation. So, it seems many, but it is all the same. For though the ego takes many forms, it is always the same idea. What is not love is always fear and nothing else. So, and again, Jesus was very to the point. And that's, if you want to really get a sense of what the man Jesus was about, pick up a copy of the Gospel of Thomas, because the other four Gospels in the New Testament are very flowery. We went up to the mountain and he fed 10,000 people, and all of these different engaging stories that give you a sense of the era. But if you really want to get a sense of the man, the Gospel of Thomas, and remember that Thomas was the guy who doubted. He was the one, when Jesus was resurrected, had to put his finger in the holes from the crucifixion. Well, he followed Jesus around and wrote stuff down, and it's pretty zen. So he was cutting to the chase and just giving us all these ruminations that came out of the mind of Jesus. And there are a lot of them that are really powerful when you start looking at them, when you start to embrace them. One of my all-time favorites is Jesus makes mention of this idea, shares his thought about this idea of our true nature. He says, "Be ye therefore perfect, even as the Father in heaven is perfect also." And we love that idea of, oh, I'm only human. Look how flawed I am. I got to drag my carcass around and work and struggle and suffer and eventually die. And poor me. But the truth is, Jesus was leading us on a journey to explore an idea that was unique to him and to that era, which is the idea of the attainment of perfection. And that attainment is not us crafting ourselves, making our ego better. That is our surrender to the truth of our true identity. And that perfection naturally unfolds from within us. So you may not attain that in this lifetime or the next lifetime or the lifetime after that, but nonetheless, Jesus was telling us this is an attainable goal. This is not something to give up on. So, if you're looking around right now and you're seeing a disaster somewhere in your life, be of good cheer, because that is an illusion that you presented to yourself as a way of forcing yourself to grow out of your own smallness. So embrace your suffering, embrace your dysfunction, embrace all of these different elements that you believe to be true about yourself, and fill them with love. Don't reject them. Don't push them away. Don't fight them. Because resistance is futile, as the board would tell you. And the truth is, the only way to fix a problem is to approach it with love. And what is love? Well, again, Jesus was very lucid about that. And he said, God is love. So when you bring love into a state in your life, into a condition that you are experiencing, you are bringing the presence of God into that situation. And to the degree that you can comprehend this, and to the degree that you can get on board with this as an activity, you're going to see that presence rectify what appears to be wrong. And I'm 71 years old, and in the course of my life, I have seen that so many times, in the most literal sense, when I stop resisting, when I stop trying to fix things on my own level, and just surrender and say, okay, I'm bringing love into this. I'm bringing God's presence into this situation, and I'm going to let go and let whatever happens occur. And as that occurs, as you finally get that stranglehold off of a circumstance that you're dealing with, that activity of the divine will come in and turn things around on your behalf. So it really is a matter of belief. That really is the core of everything that we're experiencing here. And Jesus is telling us that if we believe that love is greater than all of our challenges in life, and if we reach out to the divine within us, if our prayer is, God, reveal thyself to me, within that little particle of human experience, you will feel lifted up. You will be able to step above whatever it is that is trying to pull you down and is trying to put a cap on your existence. So, continuing in the text here, I'll read this last line again because I love this line. What is not love is always fear and nothing else. See, it's all fear. All the things that you believe are bad, all the things that you believe are out of place, all the things that you believe are going to overwhelm you, it's not the event, the circumstance, or the content of that idea. It is your fear of that idea that empowers it. So, imagine your house catches on fire and you go upstairs and grab a bucket of gasoline out of the garage and throw the gasoline on the fire, attempting to put it out. That's probably not going to work. See, and that's the way fear works. When we confront things in our lives that are challenging with fear, it's going to fuel that fire. So you have to get calm. You have to stand back. You have to breathe deeply for a few minutes. You have to look within and become lucid And then you can approach it with the exact opposite reaction. So bringing love into a situation is going to be the great leveler. It's going to be the one key element that is going to get you out of every situation that you find overwhelming. So it goes on. It is not necessary to follow fear through all the circuitous routes by which it burrows underground and hides in darkness, to emerge in forms quite different from what it is. See, and that's the nefarious thing about the ego, is the ego is the great distractor. And it is very much aware of the fact that it has to detract you, because there's really only one core problem. And if you come to that understanding, then you are going to be lifted out of whatever problem is appearing, because they all go back to one source. So one of the things that happens when you start working with A Course in Miracles is your ego will get excited, and it will start creating pandemonium in a multitude of different ways. And you have to be willing to just tolerate that, to walk through it, to step through it. Every once in a while, there's going to be a flat tire. There's going to be a bomb go off somewhere in your life. And if you fall back into fear, then the ego has snagged you. So you really have to look at what's going on around you and be willing to surrender your natural instinct, to surrender your ego's idea of how to address the situation with that one simple thing, and that is the invocation of God, the evocation of God. When you evoke God, you bring God forth from within you, because God dwells within you. So why are you so worried? Why are you so afraid? Why are you in the corner with your knees trembling in a cold sweat? When the truth is, God has never left you. You just forgot that presence that is there. The truth of God is beyond gender. It's beyond identity. It's beyond any kind of verbalization. God is, and then we just stop, because the totality of God and God's perfection is literally not able to be contained in words, but it can be expressed from within. We can evoke it from within ourselves. We can invoke the presence of God in our circumstance. And that's how we heal. That's how we evolve and grow and move beyond all of these limitations. So, continuing along the path here, it is necessary to examine each one of these crazy ideas that comes along to challenge you, as you would retain the principle that governs all of them. So always in your mind, you are aware that you are one with the Father, or you are one with the Mother, you are one with God, however you want to envision it, because God is so far beyond plumbing. I get these people who get hung up about, is God a he or is God a she? God has no concept of he or she. God is perfection. God is totality. So when you get down to nitpicking, then you're engaged with the ego. Then you're letting the ego ride. And it's going to be a rough ride. You open that gate and the bucking bronco comes out, and you're holding on for dear life. And how many times has that been your experience in life? So that's what we're doing here. We're getting out of the corral and leaving the damn bucking bronco alone, and going on a hayride and having some fun with life. When you are willing to regard them not as separate, but as different manifestations of the same idea, and one you do not want. See, this is another very salient point. You really, in truth, at the core of your being, you do not want separation. You are extending this illusion of separation out of fear that you somehow pissed God off and God's going to come kick your ass. But the truth is, God is only love. So all of those fear thoughts that you may have that arise when you're thinking about God, consciously or unconsciously, are invalid. They have no foundation in truth or in reality. The idea is simply this: you believe it is possible to be host to the ego or hostage to God. See, and there again is the subtlety of these ideas. You have to really stop and give it an extra thought or two, because most of the time this raging ego that we have set loose is uncontrollable, and even if we are managing a certain level of discipline for the ego, it still is off on its own journey. And yet we're willing to embrace that, to allow that, to experience that, because we somehow have twisted things around in our mind. And we actually believe that if we surrender to God, then we're doomed. Then we become a hostage. So with this Christmas season, we're at a point where it is very, very necessary for us to clear out the baggage that we've been dragging around with us for how many lifetimes, over how many eons, and approach this coming new year with the idea of being completely and totally invested in God and nothing else. It's that simple prayer: Lord, reveal thyself to me. So all you need to do is just ask God to reveal itself in whatever situation you're encountering. And then be at peace. Stop the fear thoughts. Stop the rampage. Stop the madness in the most literal way. And you will be ready to embrace 2018 with a new level of power. Power that has always been there. That's the sad, sad, sad part of the way we live. We have the power to walk up to Mount McKinley and say, I am casting you into the sea, and that mountain would literally rip itself loose from the earth and fling itself into the sea. We have that power. Thank God we don't exercise that power through the level of the ego, because in truth we know that Mount McKinley is perfectly fine where it is, and there's no need to do that. But the power of the Christ within us, the power of the presence and activity of God within us, is so astonishing. And, if you go back and study a little bit of history, you'll find these beautiful stories throughout the world. It's not just confined to Christianity. You find them in Islam, you find them in Judaism, you find them in Hinduism, you find them in Buddhism. There are all these different experiences people have when they surrender to the divine. And like Lazarus, they're wrapped up in bandages in the tomb, and all of a sudden there's a quickening. And they realize, oh, I'm not dead. And they come forth from that tomb. The types of healings are astonishing. And the healings are secondary. The healings are not the miracles. The miracle is the replacement of fear with love. That is your miracle. That's what you need. That's what you're looking for. The simple, simple surrender of fear. And on the opposite side of that coin, there is the discovery of the omnipotence of the presence within you, that nothing need be feared except fear itself, as I believe it was Churchill who muttered that back around World War II. So anyway, we are coming up on the end of this discussion, and I extend to you warm wishes and love and light for 2018. I think that as we all step through this weekend and enter into a new year, we can have that expectation of having a better life, of having more joy, of having more peace. And all you have to do is look at that fear, and just like Jesus said, "Get thee behind me, Satan." That's what fear is. Fear is an illusion. Fear is that satanic idea that has no substance, no truth. So get out there, share the love, pass the love around. You can join me in 1 week here. Hopefully we will not have a glitchy start like we did this time. And I wish you the highest level of love that you could possibly imagine. So allow yourselves to be wrapped in that love, surrender to that love, and extend that love to everybody that you encounter. No matter how nasty they may seem, no matter how much they may appear to be the enemy, hit them with a dose of love, and that will make the coming year an amazing experience. Happy New Year.